Welcome to Woman on Her Path. Every woman has her own unique path. But what does that mean? How does said woman know what her path is? How does she find the courage to follow her path? I am your host, Tiffany Cooper. I am a mother, energy worker, community herbalist, and bhakti yogi. By sharing my experiences and insights on my path, I hope to inspire and encourage you on yours. When we follow our path, we find the answers we need in life. Let's find answers together and create a better world for ourselves and those around us. Hey woman, how is your summer going? If it is anything like mine, you have been quite busy. I've been teaching lots of yoga lately, almost back to my pre-pandemic schedule, but I am not going to allow that to happen for very long. Now, I have been enjoying teaching more classes lately, but it's also important to me not to get overly busy. Summer is such a glorious season. When I was growing up, it was always my favorite season of the year, like many, many children, until I reached my later teenage years, and I really appreciated autumn. I really love those crisp fall days and sweaters and boots and all of that. And then as I got older, I came back to summer again. Yeah, summer is a season of freedom for me. It's a season of having a relaxed schedule and longer days and plenty of sunshine and lots of flowers and the trees full and just all of the wonderful things about summer. And summer is also a season of blockbuster movies. And last weekend was dubbed Barbenheimer or Barbieheimer, something like that, since it was the opening weekend for both the Barbie film and the Oppenheimer film. It seems Hollywood is trying to get the most it can out of these films since there is the big Hollywood strike happening right now that will render television and movies practically dead for the next year or two. Maybe more people will start reading books again. It is actually one of my secret fantasies that people in this country will go back to the days when we read books. Do you remember when lots of people were reading books? I remember in my early 20s when I was living in New York City and we all read the same books. That was so cool. I would get on the train, the subway, and see at least 3 other people carrying the same book that I had tucked away in my bag. It was so interesting and stimulating to talk to people about books and the topics that they raised, the social constructs and the inner lives of the characters, and comparing them to the real world. Books can take you out of your world and make you think deeply about life outside of yourself. I have always been a bibliophile. I absolutely adore books. I used to fantasize about someday owning a bookstore and living in an apartment above it. I actually used to have a friend in Philadelphia who did just that. Anyway, it's one of the things I love about Scotland. It is still a book country. People still read like crazy and still have intellectual conversations about books. So beautiful. But getting back to this Barbie, Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer thing, it has become such a big deal in mainstream culture. And to be honest, I know almost nothing about either of these films. Though I did see the trailer for Oppenheimer when I went to the movies with my son last year. What a powerful subject. Robert Oppenheimer's story is fascinating, but when I saw the trailer, I told my son that I don't think I could watch that film. It would probably make me too sad. To think that we live in a world where someone would actually create a weapon so devastating that it could wipe out everything in its path and poison everything around it. And then I would probably get angry seeing his efforts to try to stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons after he realized what he had done, only to be blocked out of any avenue of influence in order to do that. Those of us who practice bhakti yoga and study Bhagavad Gita, we are well aware of him quoting from the text as the first bomb was detonated. Now, people keep telling me to see the Barbie film. And I haven't seen any trailers of that film. I have no idea what it's about. But they keep telling me to see it because everyone keeps telling me that I would relate to a lot of what is in the film. I have actually heard wonderful things about it, being a social commentary. However, I have been anti-Barbie since I was a little girl, and I have no desire to see it. I find it ironic that it sounds like most of the reasons I never liked Barbie are similar to the things that are being addressed in the film. And of course, I am also interested in almost anything that involves women and our role in society. With all of that, though, I still have no desire to see the Barbie film. I don't need a blockbuster hit to prompt me to discuss important social themes. Aside from what the film has to say, I do think that the whole question of Barbie and what she represents is pertinent to us all as women today. So first, I think I'll start with telling you a little of my history with Barbie. When I was little, girls played with dolls, but I was never a doll girl. I had 2 baby dolls as a child, a black one given to me by my maternal grandmother called Jenny, the doll, not my grandmother, and a white one that I barely even remember. I was more interested in playing outside and running and jumping and climbing, too busy to sit and play with a doll. And as I got closer to being a preteen, the girl who lived next door to me had lots of Barbies. She had the dolls, she had the townhouse with the elevator, the camper, and all the stuff. Whenever I would go to her house, she wanted to play Barbies, which I never wanted to play. So I would try to get her to go outside or come to my house. Not only was I not into any kind of doll, I mainly did not like the fact that Barbie was a white doll. Back then, I think Mattel had just introduced the very first black Barbie. We had no black Barbies to play with until right around that time when I was a preteen. So the idea that if we wanted to play with Barbies, we could only play with white Barbies was just too much for me to take. You know, as Black children growing up in the 70s and 80s, we were so underrepresented in every aspect. much more so than Black people are even now. And we had hardly any positive role models being shown to us, though, of course, there was a plethora of them out there. We didn't see ourselves represented in our toys or characters in televisions or films, unless we were being portrayed as poor or uneducated or a criminal or some other ne'er-do-well. I had no interest in participating in fantasy play with a doll who in no way represented anything that I could ever be. And why would I want to? The image of Barbie with her so-called perfect, in quotation marks, life, her unrealistic figure, her blonde hair and blue eyes, and status at the top of the social food chain just annoyed the hell out of me. And how dare some smarmy corporate executive tell us girls of the world that in order to be relevant and desirable, we have to be like Barbie? Fuck that. Especially when we all know that girls who seem to have it all are usually the most vapid, superficial, and mean girls of all. Many of them base their entire lives on pretentiousness and trying to look good without focusing on substance and actually being good at anything. Instinctively, I knew we all deserved better than that, and I refused to give in to the whole Barbie thing. I knew that there were so many other beautiful girls in the world who were not blonde-haired, blue-eyed images of what society deemed perfection. Besides, pink was my least favorite color. The girlishness of it just annoyed me. The thought of being a proper young lady just pissed me off, and that's what pink represented to me. I wanted to be free to be myself and not some paper doll image of a perfect girl. Well, finally, the girl next door to me gave me a black Barbie for my birthday. I think she just really wanted me to play Barbies with her. Or perhaps she just felt sorry for me, thinking that the reason I didn't have any Barbies was because my parents wouldn't get me one. Then my parents, following her cue, got me a Barbie camper for Christmas. I remember me and my friend next door playing with it for a time. I even made an effort to get into the whole Barbie thing, but I just couldn't do it. Barbie had no appeal to me, and everything she represented was counter to what I wanted to be. And then fast forward years later to me becoming a mother to a precious little baby girl. My first child, who from the moment I realized I was pregnant, I knew was a baby girl. And then I wondered what the hell I would do with a baby girl. I decided that however she turned out after birth, I would love and try to be the best mother I could possibly be to her. And as fortune would have it, she turned out to be a lot like me as a little girl. Just like me, she looked very girly. She was petite and looked sweet, but she was mighty. While all the other little girls at the playground were playing on the ground in little girl groups, she was climbing on the monkey bars with the boys. She had an impressive collection of Hot Wheels cars, and her first best friend was a boy called Vinny. She liked some girly things too, but she did not lean out of balance into playing only with girl toys or trying to prove unnecessarily that she was a girl too. I remember when she turned 3 years old and she absolutely refused to wear dresses. And she did not wear dresses for many years after that, unless it was a special occasion that I had to kind of practically beg her to wear because she always looked so beautiful in them. She had two friends who were sisters and lived across the street from us. They were into many traditional American girly things. I remember even the way they would talk and behave sometimes sounded like they were from a show on the Disney Channel. And it kind of freaked me out and made me realize how much children are affected by the media that they are exposed to. All of that media exposure, telling little girls that they're supposed to be this way and that little boys are supposed to be that way. It's just too much, just entirely too much. And to see the way that children absorb it was always so alarming to me. Well, then, one year for Christmas, my parents gave my daughter a Barbie camper. And then she went through a short-lived Barbie phase. I went along with it, gritting my teeth and trying not to show her how much I hated Barbie, understanding that she was on her own path and to let her develop her own thoughts about the pink demon herself. I knew I had exposed her to enough other, more balanced ideas for her to get too attached to the whole Barbie thing. The camper actually came along with a little CD that played a song called Think Pink. It was perfectly written in that jingly or pop music way to be catchy enough to stick in your head forever. Those toy manufacturers have their marketing strategies all figured out. We sang that damn song for days on end until finally, she got over her thankfully brief Barbie phase. Actually, her younger brother ended up playing with her Barbie far more than she ever did, which didn't bother me as much since the act alone was challenging gender roles. But it did worry me that he would maybe start to succumb to the idea that Barbie represented the perfect, in quotation marks, I'm sure you can hear them, the perfect girl that he should aspire to be with. However, I had other ways of counteracting that too. I'm actually glad that there is a film out there starring Barbie that challenges social narratives. Again, I have no idea what the film is about, haven't seen a trailer for it, nor do I have a desire to see the film. But I hope that many other women will see it and think about what the idea of growing up with Barbie taught them. As adult women, we are still so enamored with the idea of being perfect. Having the perfect hair, perfect skin, nails, clothes, friends, and all the perfect accoutrements to go with them. It is still hard for me to come to terms with the fact that women are willing to have their appearance cosmetically and permanently altered to fit some perfect version of a woman that they have gotten into their heads exists. It's so bizarre to me that everyone wants to look alike. The same lips, cheekbones, eyes, noses, even their behinds. Are they trying to look like Barbie? If not, then who are they trying to look like? Why are they allowing someone else to set the standard of beauty for them? And why the hell are they following it? Beauty comes in so many shapes and forms. What is attractive to me may not be attractive to you, and there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, it is strange for all of us to be attracted to the same things all the time. What are we, robots who cannot think for ourselves? Don't we want to find people who are attracted to us for who we are rather than who we are pretending to be? And how incredibly boring life would be if we all looked and behaved the same. Not just boring, but creepy. Makes me think of Stepford Wives. And who does that so-called perfect version of a woman benefit anyway? If I look like a Barbie doll or a perfectly altered version of a woman, whatever the hell that means, what the hell is that perfect standard that some unknown person has come up with that so many women are following today? Anyway, how would that help me? How would it help me to look like Barbie or some perfectly altered version of a woman? Maybe I would be admired by superficial people. Perhaps I would be given special treatment by superficial people, or lusted after by men or women who only want to be with me for my looks. How does looking like the perfect woman help me in real ways? Will it allow me to be taken seriously by people? Will it help me get an education or build a career? Now, of course, I could build a career as a model or an actress until my perfect looks begin to fail. And then I suppose I could get my looks altered some more until I begin to look even more unnatural to the point that I actually start to look unattractive. Well, will looking perfect help me truly be loved by someone? Loved, not attached to. You know the difference between love and attachment, right? Well, just to remind you, love is wanting the best for someone at all times, even if they are with you or not. The focus is on affection and care for them, what you can give to them to make them happy. Attachment is pretty much the opposite. Attachment is saying that you love them while you're really focusing on what they can do for you, like how much love they can give you, or how being with them makes you look, or even how you can control them, or how you think their behavior affects other people's view of you. The focus is on you and what you can get from your relationship with them. So getting back to this perfect me, if I looked like a perfect little doll, will that make people truly love me? That question is actually a very silly one. Ask any mother if her child had been born with a limb growing out of their forehead, if she would still love them. At the same time, so many women think that if they don't look perfect, they will not be loved. I would counter that anyone who is only interested in the way you look is not worth your time. Woman, you do not have time for superficial relationships with shallow people. While you're out there wasting time and energy with them, you could be cultivating a real relationship with someone who embraces who you are at your depths. Someone who you don't have to pretend with. someone who you know will be there for you no matter what, especially no matter what you look like. And I know when I'm going through hell, the last thing I'm thinking about is how good I look. I dress like a derelict, and I may not even do my hair. I ugly cry and have very few nice things to say. The last thing I want is a fair weather friend or partner who will be judging me rather than consoling me. Even lower down on the list is me dragging myself up to try to look like a goddamn movie star. I deserve to have my time to feel bad and look like shit. And so do you. We all go through difficult times, and there is nothing wrong with grieving, being angry, being sad, or even depressed at times. Remember, we are not robots. We are human beings. Life is not meant to paint a fake smile on our faces while we look through pink-colored sunglasses. As I have said so many times on various episodes of this podcast, if life were only easy or happy, the world would be populated with a bunch of idiots. We need challenges in life in order to learn and grow. It's no fun going through difficult times, but it sure as hell makes us stronger and wiser. We have character because we have gotten through tough times. We have developed and matured because we overcame obstacles in our lives. We would be dull and stupid if we were always happy. We would have no purpose for being here. Life would be empty and plastic, unreal, and we would only see a single shade in life, when it's really full of a diversity of color and experience.
Paralyzed by your glare, terrified that you won't care. What should I do to make you see me? What can I do? What's the point if you don't need me? Am I just living for you? Would you feel me too? Do you feel it too? Living just for you. Take my breath like I do. Would you feel me too? Do you feel it too? Living just for you. Take my breath like I do.
I know I've asked this question already, but who really benefits from a woman's pursuit of perfection? So let's talk about that. So if I'm trying to look like a perfect image of a woman, wait, let's look at that. Who dictates what the perfect image of a woman is? Is it cosmetic companies, men who objectify women, magazine editors, Hollywood, plastic surgeons, toy manufacturers, the media, marketing companies? Who the hell is telling us how to look or be perfect? If we chose the image of perfection on our own, would it be something completely different from who we are? If so, what does that say about us? Does it say that we do not like ourselves or that we are highly insecure? Is that something that can be fixed by changing our appearance? Or is that something that comes from a place deep inside of us? And why don't we like ourselves? Who told us that something is wrong with who we are? Cosmetic companies? Men who objectify women? Magazine editors? Or is it Hollywood? Could it be plastic surgeons? Maybe it's toy manufacturers, the media. Maybe it's marketing companies. I don't know. Okay, but getting back to our original question. Who benefits from a woman's pursuit of perfection? Well, I would say cosmetic companies, men who objectify women, magazine editors, Hollywood, plastic surgeons, toy manufacturers, the media, marketing companies. I guess I'm starting to see a theme here. And by now, you see where I'm going with this. Now, what if I decided my own standard of beauty? Would it be something that was detrimental to my self-esteem or my health? Would it be something that could cause me harm? If so, what would that say about me? Would I be unhealthy or masochistic? What if I decided that my standard of beauty was to accept myself as I am and accept others as they are? What if I decided that beauty comes from the inside and radiates to the outside through our sense of love and compassion for the world? That surely, without a single solitary doubt, makes people glow with radiance that cannot be duplicated in any other way. It makes us look younger and shine with a pure light that attracts people from all walks of life. What if I cultivated positive energy in my life and infected everyone I met with a desire to be a better person? That would definitely be much more attractive than a perfectly constructed face that has nothing to offer the world except something pretty to look at. And is that really what a woman's path is to be? Is that it? A plastic, empty doll that serves no purpose in life except play? Is that what we were put on this earth to do? What happens to all those dolls once you inevitably become bored or grow out of them? As we naturally do, because the thrill of superficial things never lasts long. They get tossed out or destroyed, heads popped off, limbs removed as if they never even existed in the first place. All that perfection gone to waste while your attention turns to the next perfect thing. We can go on and on in search of that kind of perfection, finding it and discarding it, finding it and discarding it. Or we can redefine perfection and make it something real and everlasting.
Show me the light when I can't shine. Give me the strength when I can't find. So glad to be the one you chose and call me love like a turn time. Picture perfect, I don't know why. No reason to the way we love it, but we do it so right. A drift inside my own mind.
So, woman, we haven't talked about flower essences in quite some time. Flower essences are one of my favorite ways to work with plants because it is such a subtle art that gets into the emotional, mental, and spiritual planes. They can also help one create change within themselves in such a gentle yet powerful way. And they are easy to take. When taking flower essences, we are actually connecting with the life force of a plant and allowing the vibration of that life force to help us heal on an emotional, mental, and spiritual level. What I have been talking about in this episode is basically our self-esteem and how, no matter how hard we try, how it cannot be elevated by changing our outward appearance. Outward perfection, in quotation marks, I hope you can hear that, can only give us temporary benefits that change with the changing of our outward appearance. To effect true healing and raise our self-esteem, we have to do the work on the inside, our mental, emotional, and especially spiritual being. So I have chosen a few flower essences to share with you to do just that. Assist with healing your self-esteem. So the first flower essence on my list is elder. Elder is such strong medicine, and each part of the plant is used in such powerful ways. I have personally used the flower to make teas and salves, and the berries to make a delicious cold and flu remedy syrup, among other things. But of course, we are talking about the flower essence today. The essence is beautiful medicine for self-esteem. It helps change negative perceptions about the self and makes space for appreciation of the gorgeousness of our inner qualities. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, when we increase the light inside of us, it radiates out through our pores and surrounds us with the energy of attraction. Next, we have balsam. And balsam taps into our feminine energy, the energy of acceptance and love. It encourages us to love all aspects of ourselves, both internal and external, and helps us understand how sacred both of those aspects are. So balsam is one of those beautiful, beautiful plants that helps us accept who we are rather than thinking that we have to change something about ourselves or that there's something wrong with us. It helps us heal. It helps us heal our self-esteem, just like elder does. Now, our third plant essence is spotted orchid. And similar to balsam, spotted orchid helps us connect with the energy of self-acceptance, which can only come from within. Doesn't matter what we look like on the outside, as long as we accept who we are internally, it just eclipses anything about our external selves. When we focus too much on the external part of ourselves, we lose sight of the best part of ourselves. So check out Spotted Orchid. It will help you increase your self-esteem and help you feel better about who you are on the outside and most especially the inside. And last, but certainly not least, is Scots pine. Yes, I saved the best for last. Scots pine is one of my favorite essences. I literally have Scots pine cones all over my house. I love to bring little things from nature inside my home for decoration, and my Scots pine cones always fill me with warmth when I see them. I got to spend some time journeying with the Scots pine tree a few months ago, and it shared some very interesting things with me about our connection as human beings with the subtle energy world. Such a wise tree. The essence of Scots pine is pure wisdom. And when we take in the essence, we connect with our own internal wisdom that reminds us of our self-worth, which is about so much more than what we look like. So those are only a few of the flower essences that we can use to help us connect with the deep wisdom inside of us that reminds us that our beauty and our happiness comes from inside, so that we don't waste too much time on our physical selves. You know what, woman? It is time for our tarot card reading. So, yes, let's get into this reading. So we'll start, of course, with our query, which for today's podcast, this week's podcast, our query is, how do we learn to connect with true perfection rather than false perfection? So actually, before we start the reading, I want to explain what I mean by true perfection. A long time ago, I redefined the word perfect for myself. So for me, perfect means exactly what it is against. Perfect to me means accepting our flaws, faults, blemishes, etc. A perfect woman, or any other being for that matter, is one with flaws, faults, and blemishes, because that is exactly what gives us character, and it is exactly what gives us room to grow. We are here on this earth for exactly that, to learn and grow. We are perfect in who we are meant to be. If we were the dictionary definition of perfect, we would have no learning to do. We would have no growing to do. We would have no reason for being here. So let's get started with our reading. How do we connect with true perfection rather than false perfection? So the true perfection in this reading is my definition of perfection. And false perfection is the dictionary definition, or the more common definition of perfection. So I was just told that we need to have 4 cards for our reading. 4 cards have been laid out especially for us. And let's get to reading them. Okay, so the first card is the 3 of Swords. And the Three of Swords is telling me, or telling us in this reading, that in order for us to connect with true perfection and give up that idea of false perfection, we need to look deeply within our hearts. We need to take away, remove all of those coverings from our hearts. And they are coverings, they're not, the energy of the heart is very, very pure, and it's unstruck, as the word anahata, the word for the heart chakra, the fourth chakra. What it means is unstruck. And that is because the energy of the heart is pure. But the heart is covered. It's covered with pain and hurt and other people's expectations and disappointments and all of these weird things that we tend to absorb from other people. Their opinions about what we look like, for example, since that's what mostly we're talking about in this episode of the podcast. So in order to understand and connect with our true perfection, the understanding that we have faults, flaws, and blemishes, and that those are meant to be there so that we can learn and grow, and so that we can be genuine, honest, true, beautiful people, or we can reveal that part of ourselves, because we all have that inside of us. We need to kind of carve away or remove all of those coverings over us and get to what's truly inside of our heart. Because again, everything on the outside or that's covering the heart or surrounding the heart tends to be painful, tends to be things that don't belong there, things that are not of us. They do not come from us. Those things come from the outside. And so all we have to do is remove them. All we have to do is get away from them. And then we'll be able to tap into that pure energy of the heart, which is about compassion. It's about love. It's the way that we connect with other beings. So the next card in our reading is the Page of Pentacles. And I'm just going to repeat the query one more time just to remind us that we're asking the Page of Pentacles how we connect with true perfection and give up this idea of false perfection. And so the Page of Pentacles is telling us that we need to be good students of our hearts. We need to be good students of our hearts, meaning we need to listen and learn what our hearts are telling us. It's also, this card, the Page of Pentacles, is also telling us that we need to be good students of positive messages. Things that teach us about who we are, that teach us about our improve or encourage our self-esteem, rather than tearing us down. And, just as a reminder, the things that give us these negative messages and tell us negative things about us are things or people who in some way, shape, or form benefit from us taking in those messages. Things like marketing companies, toy manufacturers, Hollywood, magazine editors, all of those things that I talked about before. They all benefit. They all profit from us having low self-esteem, from us thinking that we're not good enough and that we need to change something about ourselves. So that's what the Page of Pentacles is telling us in this particular reading. Okay, so the next card that comes up in our reading is the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups in this reading is reminding us that we have a wealth of so many beautiful qualities inside of us. So tapping into that wealth that we all already have, just like the heart energy, it just needs to be uncovered. We just need to discover what those qualities are, if we don't already know. And once we discover all of those qualities, we can begin to radiate out all of those qualities to the world around us. There's nothing more attractive and more beautiful than someone who knows who they are inside and uses who they are inside to affect and change and help the world as much as they can. I mean, none of us can change the world completely on our own, but we can change the environment around us. We can change the environment around us just by showing up in our own true, genuine, glowing, beautiful energy. Just by showing up as who we are, and who we are is inside of us, not outside of us. By showing up in our own true energy, we can make beautiful change in the world around us, which will encourage others to do the same. Next is the 10 of Cups. So what is the 10 of Cups telling us about tapping into or connecting with our true perfection? What is it telling us? It is telling us, kind of similar to what the Page of Pentacles was telling us, but a little more refined. So again, it connects with the Page of Pentacles and saying that we need to listen to positive messages rather than negative messages. And of course, that's external. But where the difference with the 10 of Cups is that we're taking in those positive messages and embodying them. We are taking those positive messages from true sources. We're taking them from sources who have our best interests at heart, and not sources who want to drag us down or who want to get us wrapped up into something that is not of any real benefit to us. So stay away from negativity, because even if, you're hearing messages that are not necessarily about you, but negative energy, negative messages bring your consciousness down. It brings you down to a lower level, which in turn lowers your total outlook on life. And of course, that's an internal thing happening. It's bringing you down to a level where you start to feel negatively about everything around you and possibly even yourself. So we want to stay away from negative influences, negative forces, those types of things. Now, of course, we can't block out everything in the world, nor should we block out everything in the world, but we have to keep things in balance. If we are not in a place where we can deal with negativity, then we do need to go away from it completely until we find the strength or the balance within ourselves, within our minds, within our emotions, where we can deal with that negativity without allowing it to overcome us. So again, it's about building our internal energy by protecting it, by making sure that we don't allow ourselves to be influenced by what's happening outside of us. Because again, we already have flaws and faults and blemishes. And for some people, I know it's hard to admit that, but that is the truth. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, if we are taking too much negativity into our lives, what happens is it exacerbates those flaws and faults and blemishes. And rather than us healing or learning or growing, we just sink deeper and deeper into negativity. So those are our 4 cards for our tarot reading in this episode of Woman on Her Path. And I hope that you found something of value in that reading, something that you can use to help you get through this week in a much more positive and healthy way. Thank you so much for listening to Woman on Her Path today. If you are a patron of the podcast, I can't wait to connect with you soon. And if you are a monthly listener to the podcast, then have a gorgeous month. And also, I don't know if you realize, but you can also become a weekly listener now by subscribing to the podcast for $5 a month. That will allow you to get the weekly episodes, which are available each and every Friday. If you have any questions about anything, please feel free to reach out to me at womanonherpath@gmail.com. Talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this show. I hope you found something useful. Like everything in life, we can take what we need and leave the rest. Please feel free to contact me with comments or questions at womanonherpath@gmail.com.